All right. So I think I'm live. This works. This is the first time that I've ever done this, so we'll see how it goes. I was just sitting here and I was looking over the shares that I did about the article that I wrote about attending the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto in 2018. I attended it with David Lombear Senepas, Native American elder, and there was a lot of interesting literature, a lot of great people there. There were 200 distinct faiths, and so I wrote an article, but I felt really um, challenged by it because what I wanted to say wasn't positive. It wasn't an overall positive experience. Um, and so what I wanted to write was challenging because I don't want to offend people. I think that people that are in religious communities and have religious faiths, and that's all good, like I don't mind. My podcast is on spirituality and consciousness. And so I feel like I need to be a little bit softer, but also in doing research, I have to figure out and share what I know and what I've learned and what I believe from an honest and authentic standpoint. And so that article was challenging to write. So the first thing that I want to talk about is black magic. What is religious black magic? What is spiritual black magic? What is black magic? Um, Black magic, to me, from what I've learned, is when you do a magic trick or you hold some information that makes you seem special or supernatural or gifted or connected to the divine, but it's actually a magic trick. The best example that I can give you is the Wizard of Oz. So, kind of the analogy that I kind of like to use is God is the Wizard of Oz. Now, what he actually is, I think, anyway, is everyone and everything and the whole spirit in the universe, nature, however you want to call it, but like some sort of force that is breathing my heart when I sleep. Even if you want to, go full on atheist with it, you could say it's like, nature, right? Nature's doing it, life is doing it. So, whatever that force is. Um, but if you look at history and religion over history, there's been a lot of religious wars. Back in the day, they would, kill people. They would say, "You're condemned by the gods. This earthquake happened from the gods. This fire was because you upset the gods. We need to go burn you." And it's kind of adapted over time into these different scenarios, these different ways of believing, these different ways of thinking of some sort of power. And how do we appease the power up there? So we've come a long time, come a long way since the Dark Ages, it seems, but still there's a huge religious influence in the world. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I think that, there's a lot of good people. I think the best thing about religion is community. I think it gives people hope. But on the flip side, if you do some research, there's a lot of bad stuff, like the Catholic Church, they have murdered a lot of people. They almost wiped out, the Native Americans. And so this is kind of how the article started, because when I attended it with Native American elder David Lombear Senepas, who is, he doesn't use this title, but I'll use it for him. He's a bit of a spiritual representative, let's say, of the Mi'kmaq people and Mi'kmaq Nation in Canada and the US, and represented a lot of people. And so one of the first things he did that I noticed, that he did a couple talks, but he stopped two men and he said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And I was standing with him, and yeah, he stops these two men, and they're wearing, they look all dressed up, they look good, and he just says, "Who is God?" Is that what he said? "Who is God?" And they said something, and I can't remember what they said, but it was generic. And then he says, "Where is God?" And they said, "He's in your heart." He goes, "No, he's not. I don't have a heart. Try again." I was like, "Oh my goodness." And then he goes, and then they said something, responded to him, because it's obviously a challenging thing for someone to say. And then he said, they said Christianity killed Native American spirituality. No, it didn't. You just murdered, I think he said 20,000 or 200,000 of us. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was standing right there, and I backed up because I was uncomfortable. And I was like, oh dear, that's this is intense. So I was like, I want to support him, but I got to back up. I got to let him do his thing. And so I was kind of listening from the side, and then he kind of continued on. And I thought it was weird. He said so little because the Catholic Church, through the Inquisition and through, I forget what it's called, when they came over to the States and just murdered everybody and all the indigenous and all the stuff like that. This is the way. You need churches and you need God in your life, you savages, from their perspective, which is obviously a bunch of crap. It was a lot higher. So I didn't know why he said the number was so low. So anyway, he continues on to have a discussion with these two people that was really intense. And I was listening, and he was giving them challenging questions, and they were answering pretty generic. And then he ended it with something like, thank you for your time. I'll be seeing your boss soon, who is the Pope, which is ridiculous because David has pictures with the Dalai Lama because when he was younger, they asked him to bring the prophecy to the Eastern spiritual leader. And he did. He didn't know it was the Dalai Lama at the time because he was just a kid. So eventually, years later, he brings it to the Dalai Lama. And so I guess he's got to meet the Pope. I don't know how this works, but that'll be an interesting interaction, and I don't doubt it'll happen. But anyway, that's how it starts, okay? And so it's really fascinating because you go around, and I'm looking at like 220 distinct faiths. Now, if you were a child, how do you decide which one is the right one? Which one saves your soul? How do you guess right? Like if you guess wrong, and some of them, you will burn in hell for all of eternity. That's intense. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up a Christian, and I went over to one of my best friend's house. Shout out Ian Aikenhead. He's still the man. What a beautiful human being. I call him the city monk. This guy is smart, and he's kind, and he's authentic, and he's content, and he works hard, and he's not religious, but some religions would think he would go to hell. When I was a kid, I thought, I was learning in Sunday school, they're like, if you don't ask God into your heart, then you're going to go to hell for all of eternity. And I'm like, oh shit, my friend's going to go to hell for all of eternity. That's a long time. So as soon as church is done, I go over to my rollerblades, go to my buddy's house. It's like, bro, you got to come to church with me. You got to pray. You got to ask God into your heart because you could go to hell for all of eternity if you don't. And I was so concerned. And that's the first point of religion is like this fear tactic. And some people, this is interesting because some people are so far out of religion. They've done research. They've researched each different religion. They've gone to a level in spirituality where they can separate from it and realize, maybe it's not the whole thing. Other people are so into it. They're like, this is it. And like, I'm blinders to everything else. And so I think that there's a really important distinction to make, in which I try to do in the article, from religion to spiritual ideologies or philosophies. And I was recently on what do they call it, with Jeffrey Doherty and sorry buddy, oh my god, I'm blanking on my buddy's name. So on the Jeffrey Doherty show, anyway, it's about him right now, and he is the Christian whistleblower, and he was a former priest or whatever, and he was doing that forever, and he distinguished between religion and spirituality so well. Basically, he's going to do it better than I'm going to try right now, but it's like religion is anything that tries to bind or use fear tactics or hold you in, and spirituality is more about growth, about experimentation, about research. Jay Campbell, sorry buddy, I hope you don't watch this. I love you, man. So anyway, yeah, so he's going to come on my podcast, and so he because he was in the religious game for so long, he's able to distinguish between both of them. And I don't have any problem for anyone who is religious, and this is what made the article so hard to write. It may be why The Last Stand. Thank you, Gina. And so it was so hard to write because I have such compassion for people who are religious. And I know a lot of great people who I love who are in a religion. I got no problem with that. However, I want to know what the truth is. And so if it's Catholic and it's a God on the side, in the sky and it's these certain set of rules, or it's Islam and it's this set of rules, or it's Muslim, or it's all the same, or if it's like Scientology and it's this set of rules, or whatever the case is. Religion, what one of the distinctions that I think is important is that one of them will give you a consequence. So if you don't believe right, if you don't guess right, then you can go to hell forever, this terrible, terrible place for all of eternity. How, even I like to use the example, even if Jesus or God or whatever you believe, and they're benevolent, right? But you're telling me that they love everyone and everything and they're kind or whatever. Even if they were the world's biggest a-hole, they probably wouldn't let you burn in hell for all of eternity, forever. And if you think about like trying to control a set of people who don't have the internet, can't do research, can't do anything, and like you don't understand much about reality, really, like, you know, how weather patterns work and all this kind of stuff, you can use information to scare the crap out of them to keep them in line. And so that's kind of what I think happened. And so I want to go a step further because it's what I refer to as spiritual black magic. So all of these religions, I'm just thinking about going around to these different faiths and I'm hearing them out, really beautiful people. A lot of the philosophies, a lot of religion is based on truth. There's a lot of good truth in there and they build community. That's good too. There's lots of good stuff in there. But it comes to a point. How far can you progress past that? You know, did the Native Americans need this? You know, and 3 Native Americans, a Zuni, a Mi'kmaq, and a Mayan, have all said the same thing, that one of the hindrances to spiritual growth is religion. Now, these are indigenous elders. That's just what they're saying. I agree with it. I think it can get you to a point, but I think you can go a bit further. And that's where, like, there are some religions like Buddhism and Sufi and a few other ones that are more like, they're kind of like religions, but they're more like philosophies. It's like open. You know, when I was with the Tibetan monks in Nepal, I was teaching an English class in the morning, and then in the afternoon I was having conversations with Shaolin, or what, that's a different Shaolin monks, with older monks. And they were practicing their English and said, now is the time to bring Buddhism to the world. And I would ask them like really messed up questions. And I was like, they're about, you know, kindness and compassion, or, you know, love and compassion. So I said, what if somebody murdered a family member of mine? I would want to kill them. My first reaction would be like to go and just take that person out ruthlessly with like rage. And I was like, how would you respond to something like that? And the monk is sitting there and he takes the question in and he just really, really thinks. And like a minute later, he just says, you know, that would be a terrible situation and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But if it happened to me, my job would be to somehow figure out a way to show that person love and compassion. I was like, holy crap. And so whenever I asked, I had conversations. I was there for 6 weeks and I had conversations with different monks about Buddhism, about meditation, about enlightenment, about all that stuff, because I wanted to be enlightened. So what better way than go to Tibetan monks is what I thought at the time. And I learned a lot and it was a great experience. And then I go to, and they were so beautiful and compassionate. And the thing about them is, like, you know, they all really thought about the questions for themselves. You can see this like spiritual independence, that independence in mind, independence in thought, independence in their own experience and pondering. There was like this emotional and spiritual freedom to them, you know? And so you can think about certain religions and people, spiritual people, or just people in general. You can tell that it doesn't seem like to have a lot of freedom. And you can sense it, you can feel it. So flash forward to going to China when I was training with the Shaolin monks. I was talking to this young girl because they needed interpreters, and I think she was about 20, and she was one of the interpreters between the Westerners and the Shaolin teachers. And so one day I was talking to her and I was like, hey, I was just in Nepal studying Buddhism. Like, what do you guys practice here? And she's like, I don't want to talk about that. I was like, what? I was like, she's like, we don't talk about that. I was like, what? And she wouldn't talk about anything. She wouldn't talk about anything. Not politics, not YouTube or Facebook being shut down there, definitely not religion. And so over a little bit of research and prying with different people, I discovered that Buddhism in China, it's still Buddhism apparently, but it's nothing at all like the Buddhism that I learned from the monks in Nepal. And so that's the example that I wanted to share between like religious rigidity and consequence, and this is the way, and an ideology and a philosophy and a way of life and principles and suggestions and allowing for alternative thought. So it was a big difference. And so let's keep going on to like what else happened. And so some more challenging stuff. So I see these different people, these different experts, and I'm talking to these different leaders about different things. And again, I just imagine a 10-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy or girl, a kid, an alien, somebody, and somebody who is a native or like an indigenous person, right? And they just lived off the land, or somebody who just is completely on their own somehow. They got no social media, they got nothing. You plant them into the Parliament of World Religions, and you say, okay, find your spiritual path, find your way. Which is the right one? It's like, dun, 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 dun. Like, what the heck would you do? What would an alien or ET think? What would a child who hadn't been indoctrinated think? How would they choose the right one? There's these beautiful people, and so they're kind of getting people, and they're getting people by a few things. Number one is people are afraid of death. We're afraid of death. Number two, we don't know what's going on here, but we do usually intrinsically believe or think we're connected to something. What is that something? I don't even think a lot of atheists are like fully atheists. I think that they just don't believe in religion because there's so much about it that doesn't make any sense. And if you look at it, study 20 religions, study 10 if you're religious. And what I want to know is like spiritual truth for myself. And so that's why I do all these things. And I travel and I talk to different religious leaders, different spiritual leaders, different leaders and different things, because I want to figure it out for myself. So the thing is, God in all these things is unknowable. But then you get a prophet, somebody who talked directly to God, and he knows. So that's the thing that you need, right? And so once he knows, he gives you like a set of rules, and then consequences or rewards for those rules. And others don't really go by that. I read about Scientology in there. Nothing wrong with Scientology from what I've seen. But also, yeah, there is. I'm so curious about it. So I'm in California, and I want to go down all the rabbit holes. So I go into Scientology to figure out what all the hoopla is about. And they give me a piece of paper. I fill out this piece of paper, and magically they know so much about me. And then they give me this book, and it's like literally tailored to me. It's like, oh my God, how would they ever do that? How would they know me already? I just walked in. How would they know me? Well, I knew exactly how they knew me, is because they gave me neurolinguistic programming personality assessment. And if you don't know what that is, you would think it's pretty magical. Now we're starting to get into the black magic stuff. We're using a religious, not personal development. We're saying we got these special powers. They give me an NLP personality assessment. And so I'm a, visual kinesthetic, feeling and big picture thinking. And I've taken these tests before. I know what they are. But if you didn't know what they are, you'd be like, well, this is helpful. And it was helpful. Then they level you up. So now they're using brilliant marketing. So they get you with this thing is free. Then you got a $5 thing you can buy. Then you get a bigger thing and a bigger thing. Now all of a sudden you're on that track. You're getting in there. And so you're moving down that thing. And if you didn't have anything before, it's great. Now you got community, and then you got people supporting you. Most people in the world do not have a lot of people supporting them, unfortunately, which is a bummer. So support your friends. Be cool to your friends. Be inspiring. Listen to them. Help them. That's spiritual. That's nice. So then Scientology Well, then they use kind of the religious tactics super brilliantly, because then you go in and you talk to a person about all of your life, all of your crap, all of your stuff, and they know it and they log it in. And so it's a detailed thing. So if you want to get out, they know every single thing about you. And in sales, if you study sales, if you study psychology, if you study hypnosis, and you know hypnosis, you can get people to do stuff. It's very amazing what you can do mastering psychology. I invite you to check out the work of Darren Brown to see what is possible with hypnotizing people. So, yes, I actually quoted that quote, Charles. Fastest way to become a millionaire is to create your own religion, L. Ron Hubbard. I quoted that. I don't know if it's true. I don't know how to check quotes. It's come up a lot. I'm down with that. It would make sense that he was a failed science fiction writer. How do you don't go from like, oh, I'm a science fiction writer. Oh, religion. It's fine. Same. Oh yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the Mormons. I did the Mormons. Not Mormons. Also, I didn't realize run the whole state of Utah. I went down there and literally every person was a Mormon, like every single one. And again, like really good people. The people are good. The community is good. They were like the first to help in disasters. There's a lot of good things. But what level can they get to? That's what I'm saying. Do they know the full truth about what they're doing? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they know something I don't know. I don't know. That's possible too. Or it's possible that they followed the format. And the format is you got the guy. Somebody tell me the guy. I'm blanking on his name. Oh my God. The Mormon guy. He finds the scrolls. He can read them, right? Has all these principles, goes back in time. It goes back. Thank you, John Smith. You're the man. Yeah, John Smith. He goes back and he has these principles, and then we can abide by these principles, and these principles are good principles, right? Don't kill your neighbor. How do you lots of good things in there, right? So people can get on board with that. There's good principles, and we can build a community about that. Joseph Smith, that's it. John, Joseph. So Joseph Smith is the guy, and I think there's a few living what do you call them, like ascended masters, or like the living embodiment of whoever now, and so that exists today, right now. And so he comes back, and then he starts this thing, and people are at where they're at psychologically and intellectually, but now we have the internet. We can research where stuff comes from. We can do some research, but we got to be able to just open up and look. If somebody presents evidence to any religion or any thing that I can see and experience, or like practice this thing, or like look at the principles, I have my own moral compass. I know the difference between good and bad. And I also know through psychology and manipulation and all the other stuff that I've studied when someone's trying to manipulate me. And so there's kind of both ends of the stick. And so another point that I made in the article is a hypnosis principle of 80-20. And this is another thing that I think religions use, and salespeople use it, and New Age people use it, and people who think that they're helping other people use it. It's a principle that's either used sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident. And it's the 80-20. So I could tell you 5 facts, right? And then like 1 command. So Joseph Smith could have been like, I've been meditating for all these years, and maybe you can really know that unless you watched them. Then I went to the forest. Then I found these scrolls that I'm holding. That's 3. Then I walked down and through, into the village where I've lived my whole life. That's 4. And through this experience, I now have the answer from God or something. So 4 facts that are true and verifiable. And it's a kind of a bad example, but you get the idea. And then 1 thing, the thing from God. Then you go 3 facts, 2 commands. And so what you do is you do 80 to 90% truth, and then that last 10% or even 5%, that's that manipulation. And so it leads us. And so one of the things that was really hard for me when I started to look into all this stuff in my teenage years, actually, And something felt wrong. Something felt super off with the whole thing. It didn't make any sense. Half my friends were going to hell. Reading the literature, it doesn't make any sense. So many different philosophies. I was more into enlightenment and Eastern and Buddhism. I've been practicing martial arts my whole life, meditation, and also I had common sense. Could use common sense also. Just didn't make any sense. So yeah, definitely felt controlling. I remember in one of my early journals, I was like, I have to unlearn everything that I know. And since I started to study all these different things, I realized how manipulation works and how the school system works in detail. But the point I wanted to make was I was so disheartened and sad, genuinely, and I still am, I think. I didn't understand why people would do that. I thought people were good. I thought that the world made sense. I thought that people would help each other. I thought that we could get along. I couldn't imagine that a group of people would specifically and systematically want to do this kind of harm to people. And then that's the actual truth. That's what's going on. So I start to look more into psychology and persuasion. You look at the work of Edward Bernays, Century of Self. He's Sigmund Freud's nephew, and Sigmund Freud gave him his book. I think it was Unconscious Motivators for his 21st birthday, maybe something like that. And so he was the guy that helped get the tobacco companies to get women to smoke as a sign of empowerment. He got all these famous people to light up a cigarette at a specific time, and all these women at a specific time in oh yeah, Night Frog Beats, thanks man. Yeah, somebody, thanks so much for that. Gave a shout out and got a whole bunch of people to come over. I appreciate that. But yeah, so we got all these women to smoke a cigarette at a specific time in a famous New York parade, and then all women started smoking. Then the government found out about him, and he did persuasion and psychology and mental manipulation for World War I and World War II. Fast forward to some recent studies where they were testing things. I think it was a Cold War with the Russians, and I can't remember where I found the article, it was a long time ago, but what they did was they sent a reporter over to Russia, and then came back and he reported on Russia, and wrote this article about how Russia's doing this and that, and how the USA needs to be afraid, and wrote the article, put it in the media, went through all the newspapers, and hysteria happened. And in actuality, the reporter never went to Russia. It was just some quote unquote fake news, some baloney, some propaganda, and there you have it, everybody. Now we have an enemy, and you always need an enemy. And in religion, they create an enemy too. If there's an enemy, you got to kind of like be careful. Like there's sovereignty, yeah, protect yourself, but like, how are you? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to murder someone else? So again, that's that's manipulation and a little bit of black magic. Because you're not telling them the whole truth. And so there is a person today, I don't know 100% sure, can't know. I know, I would guess 90% and probably more. But Nithyananda is out there. I first got a hold of this fellow when someone's like, hey, have you seen this video of these girls that can see through blindfolds with their third eyes? I am all about it. I want my third eye turned on. I want multidimensional consciousness. I want all of that stuff. So I look at this video and I look at it and I was like, no, I don't know. I don't know about this. I think there's some bull crap here. And so I kind of like think about it for a bit. And then I start doing some research. Well, what I come to the conclusion of is I think that this thing is a magic trick on my own. So in some of that research, I discovered Darren Brown again. Thank you so much, Darren. the work of Darren Brown is very, very important. The work of James Randi is very, very important. The work of Christopher Hitchens is very important. Sam Harris, and it's not to for me like to say anything is like bad, it's just to know the whole truth about it. And like, I could use like a lot of the religions. You could say Catholic, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, even in China, who knows? Whatever the case is, not bad people. Nazi Germany, when that happened, they weren't bad people. They were just regular people, but they were moving with an institution. So what is the goal of the institution? Where is that leading to? Is it leading to you to sovereignty and peace? And is there Christopher Hitchens puts it so well, a celestial overlord, and from what I've learned about spirituality and, research and consciousness is I think that life force spark God thing is on your side. Like it's not a celestial overlord that's waiting to imprison you. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think so though. So, and it doesn't allow me freedom in this life anyways. And I don't see any good evidence, but I do see a lot of good evidence for psychological manipulation, black magic, and bullshit. I see that. That makes sense. So, okay. So yeah, Nithyananda. So these people come to the Parliament of World Religions. Okay. It's supposed to be human spirituality to create a connection with God and the divine and something special. And so we're walking out of the Parliament of World Religions. I'm with David and I'm with my friend Ian and his wife Lynn and his 2 kids. And we're walking out and David sees these people and he runs up to them. And I don't know what he's doing. And he goes, "Hey, excuse me, girls, can I talk to you?" He's like, "Yeah." It's like, "I'd love to show you a magic trick." They're like, "Okay." So he takes out a coin and he's like, watch the coin, boom, 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 does a little sleight of hand, puts his hand like this. And he goes, "Okay, what hand is it in?" It's all 3 girls in the third eye video, all 3 of them. And he goes, "You got to guess together. You got to make a group decision. Which hand is it in?" They kind of look back and forth at each other. They're thinking. And they make the decision and they get it wrong. And so I'm over here. What I should have done, and I'm so upset that I did not do this, I should have pulled out my camera and recorded this for proof. The only proof I have is the story that I have in the future video I'll be making, but this happened. I don't want to pull out my camera because all their entourage is super uncomfortable. I'm right in front of the mother and she's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable because I know what's happening. And so rather than film it, which I wish I could go back in time and film it with some confidence, but I'm just like worried. I feel uncomfortable because I know what's happening right now, or which is I know exactly what's happening. I try to relieve the tension with some small talk to this mother. So it's like, "Oh yeah, that's my friend David. Like he's a magician, and she's not looking at me at all. She's looking at David and she's looking at the girls, all 3. The whole entourage behind these 3 girls is just watching David. And so he goes, "Okay," does it again. He's like, boom, boom, boom. It's like, "I'll let you try again." Tries again, boom, boom, boom. Does some sleight of hand, puts his hands over. And then the girls are kind of smiling. They think they're like, "Oh, we guessed wrong." They're little girls. Everybody likes magic. They had no idea what he was doing. They're little girls. Everybody likes magic. So does it again. He's like, "You got to guess." All together, all 3 of them agree, right? They choose a hand and they choose wrong. So they go 0 for 2. So he's like, "All right, I'll give you one more chance." So they have like a little dialogue discussion or whatever. I'm still trying to make this mother calm down or like feel at ease because I'm super not at ease. I feel, how do I feel? I feel just like uncomfortable because I know what he's doing. And Third time goes, but there's 3 girls, and I kind of know how his sleight of hand is. It's on point. It's real good. And what he does is they actually can take it and have it in neither hand. And so here's the 3 girls. How can you? Yeah, there's the 3 girls. David's in front of them in the kind of, where's my middle finger? Yeah, David's right in front. And so he kind of goes to the side and he slides it in his pocket. That's how he does, at least at that one. And the girl on this time saw it. So when they guessed, right, the 2 other girls guessed the hand, right, and the third one goes, it's in your pocket, because she had a line of sight, being able to see where he had put it. It was a line of sight. So you got to keep in mind, these are the 3 girls that Nithyananda is using to come into his courses and activate your third eye. But they couldn't see through his hands. He used a magic trick. He's where it's a magic trick. So we leave, and they disperse. He says thank you, and the girls were amazed. And the girls they're awesome. They're just kids, It's the parents, right? But the parents, why would they do it? They're probably doing it because there's a ton of money there, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of money, and they need some. Fair enough. So we leave. We go to eat, and I was like, David, you did that to let them know you know what they're doing, didn't you? He's like, yep. He's like, okay, interesting. So I feel uncomfortable. They're at the Parliament of World Religions, and the next day, I know we're gonna go down there, and I'm gonna confront them on my own. I don't know what David's gonna do. He's his own being, we gotta let him do whatever he's gonna do. But I'm gonna go down in there and confront him. So I consult one of my good childhood friends, Matt Hauser, who is hilarious, who, like, if somebody in the world is just inappropriate, he'll call them out like they should be called out, but he's really quick-witted and will call them out, where for me, sometimes I'm like, I should have said something, but I didn't say anything. Like, you can say something compassionately, but you should call people out if they're just being total knobs or inappropriate or whatever. So my friend's really good at that. So I call him for some advice. He's like, man, I got to call these people out in a way. I'm nervous. I feel uncomfortable about it. But this isn't right, dude. They're at the Parliament of World Religions using a magic trick and tricking people, then taking their money. The hell? So I call him. Can't remember what he told me. Oh, yes. This is what he told me to do. He said, get your camera and set it up right at their booth, and then just start talking so they can hear you in earshot of what you're saying to them, saying, these people are doing a magic trick, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's hilarious. Like, I should do that, but I didn't end up doing that. We go the next day, and so we go down there to confront them. They can see we're around and we have cameras, so they actually delay, because what they do is they would go around and they would get people to bring them into the demonstration, the third eye demonstration of demonstrating their third eye is on. They can see through blindfolds. So they round people up. Well, they delayed it. They finally do it, and I'm still there with the camera. David's still there. So as they start, David walks up and he's like, first question he asks, I'm going to post this video. And he goes, may I ask you a question? I said, yeah. He's like, my name is David Senepass. I represent, I think he said 300,000 Native Americans. Are you deceiving people? And the person's like, what? No, we're not deceiving people. And the conversation went on, right? And he's just like, well, I'm a magician, and I know what you're doing is a magic trick. And back and forth, no, we have a guru, and he touches your third eye, and they can see. And that's a terrible accent. I don't know why I'm doing that. He's just like, I don't think so. He's like, okay, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to write something down on a piece of paper, and then I'll present it to them. And then they can tell me what's on it. And they're like, no, they're doing it now. Like, they've already done it. Like, you can see now. You can go see now. It's like, no, I understand. Like, but I'm going to go over here. I'm going to write down on a piece of paper something. Can one of these girls demonstrate that for me? And she said, know. And there was a conversation that ensued, and he's like, thank you very much. And he's just like, there's so many ways you could do this magic trick. He's like, you could have a camera in their hair, a really, really, really tiny one. You could have, they had this crazy booth set up. You could have cameras in those booths. You had people behind with all this electronics. What the hell would you need all those electronics? And so he's like, all you need is a little earpiece, which you can hide with all the regalia and jewelry they had, for someone to tell them. And one of them, as they're going through, and I'll point it out when I do the film, but it was held upside. They give it to the girl, and she has it upside down, and she reads it, and then she flips it after she reads the word or whatever was on it. She reads it upside down, then she flips it up after it was read. You know, it's just really obvious. So what I am essentially doing is like, I wish that Nithyananda or anyone else in the world could go and turn on my third eye. I wish that. And if they can, I'll go do it. It's like 10 grand or something. It's a lot of dough. I met the Mayan elder, Carlos Barrios. He had that experience, but it was free. And he gave me a mini one in Guatemala. And it started to happen. It was a simple technique with my eyes and my third eye, and I started to activate my third eye. It was really intense, but it was nothing like what these guys are suggesting. And so that is what black magic is. They say I can see through this. Which Darren Brown, again, check out his work, Miracles for Sale, James Randi and Peter Popoff. Manipulating people, not great, saying that they can heal each other through different magic tricks. So, bro, be careful what you wish. Last time I heard a man say that. Well, that's a firefight. Tell me later. You distracted me with that comment. I don't even remember what I wished. Yeah, I wish I could have my third eye turned on for sure. Fine with that wish. But I'm also seeing the truth between what people say they think they can do and what people can do. A lot of people will reach out, and since I released that Thoth video, or Thoth or Tahat or whatever you want to call them, I've had people reach out and be like, I'm your alien brother from here. This is the multidimensional thing. These aliens are talking to you from whatever. And I go down these rabbit holes, and unfortunately, when I get to the bottom of them, there's not a lot of value there. Like, it doesn't change my life in any way. The most valuable stuff that I've learned was when I trained with the Shaolin monks. It was hard work. When I was with the Tibetan monks in Nepal, that was just simple, and it was grounded. It was meditative. Through my own self-inquiry, spending, I think it was like 4 months in koala habitat, reading, writing, and meditating, and exploring these different things. And so, when everyone's got some sort of multidimensional thing going on. But what I've realized is that it's just like whatever you can experience is the most important thing. So Terrence McKenna will say, he has an amazing quote that's like, what good is someone else's experience or knowledge or expertise or intelligence? Even if they did have it, it doesn't do any good for you. Go out there and have your own experience, have your own thing. So I can't know what they know, but I can understand and know what I know to a degree, because it's so much. But to go back to the black magic thing, they're using black magic. Darren Brown did one on this guy. What's his name? Russian name. Go Russian man can see through blindfold. Borchevsky method. It's still on today. Darren Brown goes through the whole thing, gets to meet the guy, has a box set up, same thing that David did. And he's like, can you see through what's in this box? Because Darren Brown is a magician. And the guy couldn't do it. And he said, oh, you don't believe in this and that. You don't have enough faith. You're not going through the methods, blah, blah, blah. And Darren Brown's all right, thank you for your time. Like, I know what you're doing. You know what I'm doing. I just exposed you. So it's the same thing. So this is a business now. These guys were at the Parliament of World Religions today. And so that's something that I uncovered. I know that. I might not have known that if I didn't start learning magic from David, if I didn't know of the work of Darren Brown, if I didn't research psychology and hypnosis and persuasion, I wouldn't have known those things. So I probably would have paid the 10 grand. I'll still pay it. If they give me like a sample one, I'll go down there and pay it. I'm not paying him any money. I know it's bullcrap, but I will pay it just to know. I spent so much money trying things that are supposed to activate my consciousness, and not a lot of results, to be honest. A lot of money though, but I try. I go all the way down those rabbit holes. If you do this, you're going to see your angels. I'll do it. If you see this, you're going to talk to aliens. I'll do it. But again, the useful information coming out, I don't know. It's like perspective. It's sometimes useful philosophies. You can have useful philosophies, but what are you saying it is? Are you embellishing? Are you then making a claim to something beyond? So Black Magic, the Parliament of World Religions 2018. So what is the difference between a religion, the Catholic Church, they say they got a right to God, and they've got 10 commandments, and if you don't believe in God, you go to hell. If you're gay, you also get to go to hell. That's great, because that's a good portion of the population. I learned from David Lombear, actually, that the Mi'kmaq, anyway, they have a special reverence for people who are gay, because he says that it's like a man and a woman, like the two energies are in one being, and it can be a very challenging thing, but it's merging two energies. So that's interesting. Didn't know that. So Catholic Church example, Crusades, and just go through history. Who wrote the Bible? Do you know that? The Council of Nicaea wrote the Bible. Human beings. Constantine. So he could rule Rome at the time and consolidate the beliefs. It wasn't so that Jesus, which I think existed, I'm very confident existed, was going around there telling you be a good person. He dies. Then humans, even when he was alive, all the people in power tried to kill him and stop what he was doing. All the religious people had tried to stop him. So what would change after that? Nothing would change. It'd be the same thing. They would still do that, and that's what humans did. That's what they're doing. So you got, people don't know what's going on. They don't have the internet. You got these massive churches. If you don't listen to us, you're going to die. And then here's the army behind us. So then this God, this thing that was unprovable, somebody talked to him, and then you've got the people in robes. What did David call them? I love those. Like representative. You don't need like a broker. You don't need you and a broker to creator. You don't need a broker to God. It's like, imagine the kid again sitting there, and I'm going to the Parliament of World Religions, and I'm still looking for truth. And I think there's a lot of truth in these people, but the teachings are they're pretty simple. Basic morality will give you religion, and then build community. That's the big value, is community. And yeah, there is an after. You continue after this. That's, great. Now we don't need all the other stuff. So you're sitting there as like a 10-year-old. It's like, all right, I better guess right, or if I pick the wrong broker, then I'm screwed. I'm just gonna, oh God, like which symbol do I pick? And so what do? Do we need to? I speak softly about this, I think, because having a podcast on religion and spirituality and wanting to help people, but also I wonder too, I'm pretty share this a lot of time, I'm very masculine in the sense, if you do something wrong, my first impulse is to just beat the crap out of you. That's the first, I'm very primal, just want to dummy you. And so it takes a lot of restraint to say things compassionately when something's so wrong, and I have to hold that compassion with religions. And why do I have to do that? Why do they get some sort of right or a shield from just research and feedback and truth? Why do they get that? Why do they get these little smoke bombs? And if you look at debates between Christopher Hitchens and any religious person, you will see the difference in it's just very obvious what's going on, and he does it way, way, way better than I think that I ever will. But I don't think he was very spiritual. I haven't seen what he believes about the afterlife. He probably believes you just die. I don't believe that. I think it's just that it's we've taken this unknown force that we're all in the mystery of, and then you create a book and an ideology and rules and consequences around it. That's the problem. Rather than philosophies and ideologies and sharing with our neighbor and just simple stuff that we all can know and understand and appreciate. So I think that's all I wanted to say. I've never done one of these lives before. I really appreciate you guys jumping in and leaving comments. If there's any questions, let me know. You can check out the article at mattbelair.com/blog. And I try to distinguish, like how religions are built and things like that, and just the protocol and what I see. And then also too, like with this Nithyananda character, I'm going to do a little bit more video on that because I think it's unacceptable. It's happening right now. Peter friggin' Popoff is back in business. It's like, look up Peter Popoff and James Randi. What the hell is going on? And so when is that going to be exposed for all of the religions? And they're so deep in these people's beings, and they're willing to kill you if you speak out about them. That's some dangerous crap right there. So it does feel like we are in the spiritual dark ages. So what do we do? And how do we become spiritual? How do we become enlightened? And I'll also say too, as a note, because I see this a lot, I go to the woo-woo of the woo-woo, and I love it. And I want to know what's going on, what's possible. And the last one I went to was in Guatemala, the Mayan Heart Festivals. I was hanging out with the Mayan elder, and we had all the presentations and things like that, human design, which I'm honestly not a big fan of. I think there's a bit of value to it, but it's like, and I haven't looked into it super in depth, but so many people are throwing it at me, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, cool. Like I can do a personality assessment. That's great. But I learned a lot more from doing the cold plunge last week. I learned a lot more from running at night and being in nature. I learned a lot more from meditating. I learned a lot more from being kind. I learned, oh God, geez, I almost dropped my computer. I learned on my rant. I learned a lot more from trying and experimenting and travel than I would from, like, again, this $2,000 thing that's like opens up these little multi-dimensional gateways, blah, blah, blah. And like, until I see an ascended person, I don't know about that stuff. So the black magic is also in the new age spiritual community. Now, what I've been using as a bar lately is, number one, this person. What can they actually do? So with the Nithyananda character, I'm interviewing this girl, which you'll see, and I was like, can you do this? She's like, yeah, I can do it. I was like, okay, let's do it now. She's like, I won't do it now. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, your third eye's turned on. I'll just write something down. You can do it, right? And she couldn't do it. So the new age spirit guides, chakra, everything, there's a place for it, but there's also the yin yang balance. And if this spiritual teaching to me wouldn't apply to the Tibetan monks that I was with, I was like, go down to the Tibetan monks, tell them you have some sort of offering to help them be enlightened and understand Creator and God and turn on their pineal and see if it works. If like you would sell that to them or they would adopt to it. Like, these people are much at a higher level of mastery and resonance than you at 25, 35, reading a book, having a chakra crystal, doing that. And again, there's truth to it, but I think we're going a little bit too far. And one of the analogies that I like to say is, it's like spirituality could be like martial arts. And most people they're living their lives. They don't really care about spirituality or God or different things like that. They're just doing their thing. Then all of a sudden they discover spirituality, which will say is martial arts. So they go in, right? And they're like, oh, cool. There's a punching bag, and I can get these gloves, and I can get this suit, and I can put a belt on, and I got all these cool pads right on. And so they kind of experiment with like a day or two, and they read a few books, right? And they kind of got an idea, right? And they've been in martial arts for like a week or like a year, but maybe they're only practicing like a little bit, right? So then right away, within not even a year, within like a day or a week or a month or 6 months or a year, these spiritual teachings, aka martial arts, you go into the gym, right? And someone's walking down the street and they're like, oh man, I just got interested in martial arts. And they go to the thing, they grab their gi and they just throw on a black belt. They just tie that thing right on there. No work, no problem. Just mastery, you know? And then they go around in public displaying to everybody that they are now wearing a black belt. Hello, everybody. I'm spiritual. I have a black belt. I'm spiritual. I have a black belt. If you'd like to know about multidimensional everything and aliens, all of this and all of that, you can come see me. And all of a sudden I've known this because I've gone to the gym and I've done no work for a very short period of time and I'm a master. And that's kind of like, I think I'm getting more, what's the word for it? It's like callous, something like that. It's like skeptical for sure. Definitely skeptical. Way more than before. For like the first 30 years of my life, I just did it all and believed it all. Salty works. Salty's close. Definitely getting salty. I think there's an even better word, but it's just like, cynical. I think that's the one. Cynical, but not the whole thing is cynical. It's just like I got like a broader view now. So it's like I go to Shaolin masters in China who train all day, every day, for years to become masters. It's unbelievable what they could do. Their training was unbelievable. They had unbelievable dedication. The monks in Nepal, unbelievable dedication. Older teachers that I've met, one of them will be coming on the podcast, Rigson. A few conversations with her. She's a musician. Older people, they don't even need to be spiritual teachers. Old people who are good people, spiritual masters, you know? And, and it just seems like there's this group now in the new age, which has gone nuts. Like over the last 5 years, it's really just exploded. It's new. It's happening. With just very little practice and mastery. You know, there's a reason why in indigenous cultures that you have elders. There's a reason why we learn like that. And so it's not bad wherever you are, whatever you think, but just add in the humility. That's all I'm asking. And just wear the belt that you're wearing. Just if you're at a white belt, that's awesome. Wear a white belt, man. You know, if you're at a blue belt, wear a blue belt. The worst thing is having a black belt who just beats the crap out of you, right? And so what's even worse than that is having a white belt, pretending to be a black belt, verbally attempting to beat the crap out of you, but the person who is getting the crap beat out of them, they don't know martial arts existed, so they're losing because they have no idea what is going on because they didn't even know what gloves are or have any idea to defend themselves. And so that's where the cynical comment or like the masculine will come in and be like, bro, got a white belt, man. I was like, didn't you learn humility? Didn't you learn like kindness? Didn't you learn like helping? You know, in martial arts, jiu-jitsu is beautiful. Martial arts is beautiful. You help. It's about growth. Spirituality is about growth, not like knowing something. It's like, I've meditated more hours. I've done this. And I'm starting to see a lot of that. And it's lame. Cut it out. It's bullshit. Quit it. Just be kind. And so yeah, I'll wrap it up because I'll just keep ranting. But this was fun. This is like my first time. People interacted. That was cool. Appreciate that. And yeah, I've been doing some cold training, so I'm going to release more of those videos. That's been real interesting, real cold. Learning more, pushing myself. I'm not doing Wim Hof. People keep asking me that. It's like, it's Wim Hof. I was like, I love Wim Hof. I do. Wim Hof is the man. I met him briefly in Vancouver before I came. He was doing a training. My buddy was coming down. It was very brief. I didn't know who it was, but he was so righteous. Yeah, I freaking love him. He's so funny. It gets cold and then drinks a beer, and he's just that guy's a super. That guy does it. You know, that guy's a real superhuman. He can actually do it, and he's so humble. So yeah, man. So I'm going to be releasing some more of those videos. And so that's it. If you listen to it and like it, please share. That helps. Leave a review in iTunes. Patreon. I just did a thank you Patreon video. So if you want to chip in there, that really helps too. I'm living in a yurt. Pretty basic. Looking to figure out a way to support this. So right now I'm actually I'm going to create a master mind, body, and spirit club. And that's what this yurt is for designing that, for teaching some of the stuff that I know. And I've already listed out 50 courses. So I've tried to pump the brakes on the podcast, but it has not worked at all. And because these guests are incredible, I want to keep bringing them to you, but I got to put some stuff out there, create like a club that I can do a membership for, so that I can sustain myself and continue to travel. I've been able to get around everywhere, but it's going to be nice to do it, knowing I can put gas in my car and crap like that. But that's what I'm working on. It's going to be freaking awesome. I've been working on it for a bit, so I just need the time to do it. So your support and shares, friggin' Apple blacklisted me, those buggers somehow. I was getting like so many downloads, and all of a sudden to stop. So the shares help a ton. So yeah, so if you want to do that, that helps. What do you think of John Velo, McKeesick, and Marga? I thought I remembered to talk to him. John Velo, I haven't done it. Well, I did a Gaia course with his. I think that, like, for me, they're all valuable in a way. And then when you do all of them, you start to notice the, this is a question. I might have just read that in my mind. What do I think about John Velo's course? I haven't done it, so I can't speak personally to it. I know bits of it. I've done his Merkaba activation before. I've done so many Merkaba activation things like that. I haven't got to a point where I've floated around in Merkaba. That would be dope. Maybe I'm not practicing hard enough. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I'm not dedicated enough. That's all fine and dandy, true. Because I'm not perfect. I set myself in environments where I really go hard at it for a while, but I've been a lot more not going ham on it. But what I've learned from doing all these things, like fully committed, is to have general truths, and you can get it your own way. And so one of the reasons I'm doing the cold plunge on my own is because I want to know what I'm capable of. I want to test my spiritual will. I want to create my own design. That's my connection to spirit. You're always looking for somebody else to tell you how to do it. Now, in the same token, we should be doing research and exploring techniques that work. I also do that. I do squats because squats give me strong legs. I run because run is good for cardio. So it's both. It's like yin yang, right? Boink, be in the middle. And you got the two things. So it's everything. And, so learn from your own experience. And it's probably valuable. He has some very interesting work. I went through his weekend course once on the Gaia thing, and it's very interesting. But as of late, I've just come back to more and more simple stuff. Way out there forever, and I'm still way out there, but I'm definitely coming back to the ground. And the best thing, if you want to be a spiritual master, I don't care what you've read, how much you've meditated, what belt you are, just do 3 kind acts each day. Go out of your way to do it. Don't tell anybody you did it. Don't go brag about it. And I invite you, if you haven't, to take the kindness challenge. If my work makes one more kind act happen, then my intention is working, and I think I'm doing a good job. But ideally, we make kindness go viral, and we tag 3 friends to take a kindness challenge, hold the door open. And so one of the things, oh shit, I'm going to keep going. I'm such a, oh God. Okay, I'm going to keep going. One of the things David said at his speak when he was talking to the Parliament of World Religions, and I was with him, we were outside, and he said, and we were there for a while, and he was the only one who talked to the homeless people that were outside the Parliament of World Religions. And he said, I watched 60, I think he said 63 or 70 people with collars walk by the homeless today and yesterday and the other day. So what the hell are we doing? We're at this spiritual conference, and the homeless person told them that security asked them to leave, to go away. And it was cold that day, and it was rainy that day. So what the hell is going on? I have no idea. Maybe you do. I can only know what I experience and try for myself. And even then, I don't know. I was running in the forest the other day. What actually happened? I don't know. I was running for a forest, but how much of reality am I taking in? Am I remembering when I try to share it back to you? What's all there? I don't know if it's getting too metaphysical or weird for you, but I think about that because you try to recall. But what you know is if you're trying to share genuinely, And then if you're trying to add on, you make it a little bit better. So try not to add on. Just try to share your experience. Just try to be authentic. Just try to help others. And so that's it. I don't know what the question was, but please type it out. I'm going to close. I don't know what that is, but it's great that you have the answer. So that's awesome. So the people who see that. But a lot of people tell me means punch it. I don't know. I keep reading these comments and get distracted trying to shut this down. But yeah, please tell me. And a lot of the time though, I'll just share that I get a lot of emails from people, and then they got the answers to life. And to me, it's a lot of it's philosophy, and it's good philosophy, and I dig it, but it's this ultimate code, and I want them to keep sending it to me because maybe the ultimate code will happen, and maybe my dumbass just hasn't figured it out yet. But I haven't been able to apply it succinctly. It just seems like more spiritual chat. So I don't know. I know that when I go out there and I do 3 kind acts and I do my best and I listen to my heart, my soul, the thing that drives me, and I do my best to be a kind person, then I'm usually pretty aligned, and that's about it. So I'm going to shut this down. I appreciate you guys for watching. All of the best. Please, if you enjoyed this video, do at least 1 kind act today. Just 1. You have to call somebody, give somebody a compliment, talk to somebody you haven't talked to for a while. Listen, that counts. Pick up a piece of trash. Tell someone you love them. So any of those will work. Thanks a lot for watching. Have an amazing day. Peace.